Well, with any luck, we've got something going on here. So what I've done is I connected to a new router and got a little bit different setup. So we're not going to talk about a whole lot here today. We're just going to go ahead and I'm going to work on this top block to the Holeshot. Supposedly it should be recording to the card on the camera. So that way I'll be able to get an edit in there and put it all out in one piece to where it's a little bit shorter. So that way get an edit in there. See where we're at here. So I did a edited video and I got this far on the Holeshot. And it's a little bit touchy here with this motor as far as the close quarters. There's not much room in there, so everything's pretty compact. I'll explain this now. I'll go over it briefly. This little motor is set up on the plans to bolt through the back of the firewall to the motor. I wanted to utilize this bracket here, which basically enlarges the footprint of your motor mount. But in order to do that, I sort of had to give up the fact that this motor would come directly out of the front. So if this bracket wasn't on the motor, you could go around through the back side and unscrew it from the battery compartment and pull it out. I wanted to go ahead and be able to remove this motor from the front. So it created a little bit of a dilemma. It's a little bit tighter fit. And in order for this motor to come out, this has to come off the motor. This is the prop drive, which goes on. And that removes from 3 bolts from the front. You pull this off and then the motor comes out. So it's sort of tricky. I'm learning as I go. It's not automatic for me because I haven't done any of these setups. First electric deal here. Now, there's been other reports and other pictures of people building these things, and they don't actually mount the motor from the back. They flip it around and they mount the motor from this side, which would normally be your prop drive. And what that does is it takes some of the wear and tear off the bearings, I believe. So I'm going with the plans. It shows the motor mounted this way. So with this small of a motor and this small of a setup, I don't think it'll be an issue. So we'll see. This is going to be a fun airplane for me because I can take it, I don't know, about 2 blocks down the easement here and fly in an open field that's set aside for drainage. And should be fun. It's going to have 1/4 inch on the bottom. One of the things I did, it's not on the plans, it shows this, I've got this X bracing in here. And that adds a tremendous amount of rigidity. So when these blocks are off of the airplane and this fuselage is sitting upside down for the I-beam, I still have a rigid structure to go off of. And I've done this on other planes. Maybe it's not necessary, but I decided to utilize the X bracing for just a small amount of weight, but I think it adds rigidity during the construction before I get the blocks on. Now, if this airplane was going to be put together with a foam wing where I wasn't relying on the fuselage rigidity so much, at that point before the blocks are put on, I might forego the X brace, but using it. So I'm going to tack glue this block on. We're going to razor plane some of this stuff here on this block. And like I said, I'll go back after the fact and do an edit. And the only reason I'm doing this today with a stream, I just wanted to see how that camera connects. You know, I'd like to be able to use this setup on a Hangout, a Zoom meeting. That's the intention anyway. With this razor plane, this is a master air screw. It's got two screws here that drive the blade forward. Let me see if I can get a screwdriver here to adjust that. Loosen the blade a little bit here. And squeeze these in a little bit. Sometimes you really never know what you've got till you start cutting with it. Let's see. So that's taking a little bit bigger bite. And I'm not really sure if you can still buy these master air screw planes and balsa strippers. I'd have to check on it. I do know in woodworking shops like a Rockler or Woodcraft, they sell small planes. But the beauty of this little plastic plane is it's a weight. It's really light. It's easy to handle. So as you notice here, I'm not actually running the plane aft to the front of the plane. I'm going from the front to the back because of the grain. If the grain is running straight, if you try to go against the grain, you end up taking too big of a bite. It becomes obvious after a while, but if you've never worked a razor plane before, just keep that in mind. It's important to buy the block, not the fuse, because the fuse is too delicate. I did a video, I think it's Holeshot 6, and somehow that GoPro, by flipping it between the bandsaw and the bench, it got stuck on the vertical mode. And instead of redoing it, I just went ahead and published it. I'll just chalk that up to one of the learning experiences. With this YouTube stuff and the camera, editing software, connections, and all the different variables, I basically just have to run with it after a while. If you wait till you're trying to get perfection, it'll take forever. So the main thing is, if it conveys some kind of information that's useful, even if it's a little boring or not very clear, I'll still go with it for now. Yes, with this 3/32 sides, you got to be real careful. One more swipe and you're into the fuse side, and that's what we don't want. So the other thing, the plans show on the top, it shows basically all the way up to the canopy here. It goes straight up, and then right around this point here, the canopy starts to taper down. That's why it's flat here. So I'm going to establish a line straight through here. See if I can keep from choking on the dust here, so I continue to talk. So this is just free-handed on a bandsaw. Trying to get out all the waves and bumps. Another thing I'll mention ahead of time, sometimes with this live stream, this thing cuts off after 40 minutes. So we'll see if it works. Now, in the past, when it would drop off and quit, I didn't know if it was YouTube, the camera, the router. We've got a few variables. So that got rid of all the bumps. So I'm just trying to maintain that nice straight line. So I got a reference on what to plane to. Now at this point, I'll go ahead and sand the sides a little bit. Try to straighten the sides out. Now, I'm not going to sand into the fuselage side sheeting, but I'll get pretty close to it. So it really doesn't matter if you're sanding wheel pant plugs, wing tips, or a top block. Always sort of go with the same method. And what I mean by that, I establish my outline before I start carving the shape to it. And you can just feel along. I leave it just a little prod. So now, by doing that, I've established the profile, and by sanding the sides, I've established the top view right here. So when I start razor planing the sides, I've got something, a reference point. So I think as far as videos, the material, when it comes to the planing and shaping, I think it's probably monotonous for somebody that's already done it. There's not much information in it other than the technique. I know Stunhanger, they've done probably countless hours. You probably couldn't even estimate how many hours he's got shaping. So what I'm doing here is old school, been done hundreds of times. And the purpose today is just to look at this video and see how it came out. Now right here is going to be the front of my canopy. It's not going to be a plastic bubble canopy. This canopy on this airplane is going to be integral into the blocks. So I've got to actually sand that radius in there. So all I'm working on is the shape on the corners. I'm not going into the top or the sides yet. I'm just trying to get this corner knocked down. I got 3 people watching this thing. That's amazing. I never do live streams anymore. Nobody's looking for them. Another thing to be to pay attention to now, I've got a nice flat spot here, which would be where my rudder would go. So I want to be careful. I want to leave a flat spot back here. And that flat spot would roughly be, let's see, where's my marker pen? like right up in here. So that gives me an idea that this flat spot will be safe for the rudder, and then afterwards I can blend it, I guess, and flare it all in. And I think the rudder, it looks like it's got ribs on it, but I think it's 1/8 inch with ribs. It's got a really neat built-up look. So there's a lot of characteristics of this airplane I like. One of them is the built-up rudder, or the built-up look to it with the ribs. That was cool. And then also the I-beam. So a little disclaimer, I remember mentioning in one of my videos, talking about these plans, I went down to the UPS store and had them printed. And so if you're not familiar with the process, with AMA, you can get on the AMA site, and I was on there the other day and I had to dig around. I still couldn't find them, but they're on there somewhere. But the PDF files for these plans, get into AMA magazine. I think they got a link that'll take you to them. So you download the PDF file and you put it on your phone or your computer or whatever, laptop. Phone's good enough because it's portable. And then you go in the UPS store, and at my UPS store they give you a little card. And I'm sure you could do the same with FedEx, but UPS is just a couple minutes down the road. So they got this little card. Of course, it's got the owner's name or whatever, but then it's got the email to the store right here. So you just get on the phone, you locate your file, your PDF file, and you email it to the store right there at the address. And it happens almost instantaneously, at least around here. The guy walks over to the computer and sees your email with the attachment. And then he'll pull it up on the screen. He'll look at it, and now some of them, they get sort of confused because, let me go over this real quick. So this plan, when it shows up on your screen, the dimensions of this plan, for some reason, when it shows up on the computer screen at the UPS store, it's showing that the plan is too big to come through their printer. So let me see what this thing is width-wise. I don't know if I've got a tape measure out here or not. Let me see. But there was a little bit of confusion, and I told the guy, I said, just print it full size. Don't worry about if it comes out all right. So it's 36 inches. So, for some reason, I think the file on the computer was showing up at 37 inches. But the paper they actually have in the store is 36 1/8, which is perfect. I mean, you get the border and everything on it. The other thing to pay attention to, when this thing comes out of their printer, and I'm standing right there, that's the nice thing about it, you're going to see a scale right down here. Just take a ruler, they have one in the store, and just make sure that it's a 1-to-1. So it's showing, you know, it's showing right here, go to 0, don't go to -1. So go to the 0, and it's 5 inches, so they're perfect. I don't know why they've got -1 over here, but it starts at 0, so 0 to 5 is 5. So just double check that measurement and make sure that you're at the 1-to-1. Plan number 1144, and it's designed by, well, inspired by Bob Hunt's original design, Holeshot Master. Let's see, Fred Seasquam, and the CAD plans are drawn by Louis Strafaldi. I think I pronounced it right. So anyway, yeah, you can download these plans through AMA for your own personal use, not for resale or publication. It's just to build off of. And they do a beautiful job down here. That the printer, it's as crisp and clean as anything I've seen. And it's a great plan. So that's convenient. I mean, a couple minutes down the road, and I've got plans. Now, originally, I don't know if there's a young kid in there or not. He printed these plans out for me, and it was $8 and some odd cents a plan. And I think he might have looked at the wrong measurement. So I go down there to get another pair. I think it's 16, 17 bucks. It ended up 27 for two. That's with tax and everything. So, you know, 27, what are you looking at? 13.50. So, in today's times, for that quality of a plan for 13.50, and there's no shipping, of course, it's a deal. Let me see here. Morning, Dan. Steve Berry said the connection looks really good. That's good to know. It's the old GoPro, but it's still a new connection. It's supposed to be 5G for whatever that matters. So, it was nice meeting you at the Nats, Steve. So, beautiful airplane. Now the hangouts always have good intentions. When you get my age and it gets about 7 o'clock and it's been dark for 2 hours, I'm headed to the sack. It's like, okay, I'm done. I remember one hangout, I was sitting there falling asleep on them. So, oh, if Steve, you're watching, I'm not sure. Sparky talked about a set of plans you got. It's the ones you CAD drew, the XL, Gino XL or something like that. I wanted to get them from you. So I'll be contacting you. I'll call you or email you or something to set up. I don't know if you take PayPal or what the deal is, but I wanted to get a set of those plans. So I don't know if, I haven't seen them yet. I heard they're really good, but Steve drew up a set of plans. It's one of Sparky's planes with some kind of Junar XL wing in it or something. I forget which one. But I wanted to get a hold of that. And this is just bouncing around in my head with this Holeshot. And I've done some stuff with the RC stuff over here where it's ready to be molded into a clamshell mold. They're fuselages. And with this Holeshot, the stab doesn't take any time. If you've ever built an I-beam wing, it goes fast. I mean, once you jig this template up at the root, the tip, you get your fuselage aligned, put your leading and trailing edge in your spar, and it's just basically just dropping ribs in there, stripping them off and dropping them. It goes really fast. The time-consuming thing with this Holeshot, or really any airplane for that matter, is all this sanding right here. It's like carving sand, carving sand. It's beautiful. But what I was thinking is taking some tooling board and taking the tooling board and making a fuselage out of this and a fuse, and then making a mold off of it. So Joe Daly's got a video. Well, he does a series where he's doing his airplane. So he's got clamshell molds and he's laying up the fuse. I'm not sure if I'd go to the extent he did as far as the glass and all the vacuum bagging and layers, but I'd find it an acceptable method that met the weight requirements to make this out of composite. Glass, carbon, I don't know what it would be. So that way you could make a really good short kit. So if you wanted to build the Holeshot, you'd order a fuselage and it would be electric only to start out with. So you might have a firewall cut for the fuse, your landing gear pads all ready to go. It might have a top hatch, you know, that comes off to where you can access the installation of your horn on your I-beam. And then of course your battery. That all had to be figured out, but that way, if you could buy a fuselage that was light, rigid, and straight, and then jig this thing up on your bench, and then you could knock out this plane really fast. It would cut out all the time-consuming carving. Now let me walk over here real quick. I'll be back in a second. I'll show you something. So this thing here, this is a pod. This was supposed to be for an RC plane, like an experimental concept. This is styrofoam with like 3 or 4 coats of glass. It's got West Systems on it. Then it's got catalyzed auto body primer. And then it's got a catalyzed clear coat. And the catalyzed auto primer and that clear coat, it's heavy, but it's great for these plugs. So this is going to be the plug to actually make the mold. So basically you'd have a plug that was shaped like this, and you'd be making molds off of it. Working at the composite shop over there at JT, they're the best people you ever meet. They helped me tremendously. I did a lot of woodworking for them. And they were talking about a way to actually lay this up in one piece. So normally it's a clamshell that comes together, and then you'd actually lay up a left and a right, and then you join the halves after the fact. Well, we sort of talked about a method to where the mold is open on this end, which would be opened anyway because the boom would come out. The mold would be open here. So when this layup would be on a pre-preg or glass or whatever method you chose, you'd actually mold it up in one piece from the inside out. So anytime you can open the front and the back and make it into a tube, you could form it all in one layup. So when you open the clamshell, the part comes out. So anyway, that's something that's rattling around in my brain, taking this design and actually making a fuse. Now I know Fred in Brazil was talking about, I think he was on Instagram or something, he's talking about doing a short kit or something, but the problem is, as we all know today, if you make a kit and then you ship it across the ocean, unless you're doing the volume to where it makes it feasible, it's cost prohibitive. But I don't know if you could ship a fuselage cheaper than a whole kit. But the other problem is getting all the balsa wood. So at this step, basically, when you do this, when you sand it, you want to roll it like this. You can sand it like this for a little bit, but you want to put a roll in the bar. This is a 1/4 inch, maybe a little fat. I'm going to trace around this. I'm going to trace around this 1/4 inch so I know where I'm going to be on the vertical stab. I could even put just maybe 1 degree offset in it. And the only reason I trace that in there, so when I start sanding, I know I don't sand into that flat spot. So So it goes relatively quick. So just this little bit of razor planing, I was able to get this much shape in it. Now when it comes to sanding this turtle deck, you can look at it at this angle, but when it gets to this point here, you want to sight down long ways and rock it back and forth. Make sure you have the symmetry on your block, and you don't want any dips or waves. You can always check it like this, you know, see where you're at. Well, that's about all I wanted to cover today. I just wanted to turn this camera on and see how it's looking. If everything goes out, works right on the camera, I should be actually saving this video to the SD card. So not only could I live stream this, I could go through there and chop it up into a quick edit to do the whole edited thing. And I'll add more stuff to it on the edit. But yeah, I'll get with Robert and see if I can get those plans from you, Steve. You got 4 people watching, that's great. 3 or 4. So I'm going to click this thing off here, see if I can do it from the phone, and see if I can stay up late enough for the hangout tonight. Let's see here if I can end it. I'm not sure if I can end it on the phone, but I know I can end it on the camera. So anyway, thanks for dropping by. If you just tuned in, back up. There's a couple little tips in here. And I'll catch you on the next video. Hey, thanks for